What is going on, NPL viewers? It is Richard here, and I am bringing you the NPL Minors Week 4 Power Rankings. With me today is my co-host, so say hi, Trev.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Trev the King here.
Awesome. So, we're actually, you might notice, we've skipped over the Week 3 Power Rankings. That was kind of a messy week, not really in terms of the battles themselves, although kind of, but basically, a whole bunch of stuff was just going on that week, so it ended up not getting done. We will be going over those briefly, and my ranks and Trev's ranks will be in the description below, so you can check those out, but we're only going to be going over those briefly. I guess I'm just going to start off by talking about my first two teams, my top two teams. I did promise Palm that I would have him at rank 1, automatically he would stay at rank 1 if he managed to get a kill with Sawsbuck, and he did. Unfortunately, I had to move him down to rank 2 just because Michael was proving to be a very good competitor and proving that he could play at a very high level, which I already knew that he could, but I moved him up to rank 1 just because of the fact that he had a bit of a tougher schedule up to that point than Palm did, and also because, spoilers, I knew what happened this week, and it wasn't so good for Michael, so it was somewhat of a pity rank, but he did definitely deserve it in his own right, and so I moved him up to rank 1 in week 3, so we'll see what happens this week. And Trev, would you like to say anything briefly before we get into the week 4 rankings?
Well, I'd just like to say that my rankings for 1 and 2 for week 3 were also Michael number 1 and Palm number 2. Now, I'm going to just say something here. Green Bay going into week 4, Michael, was by far the number 1 team for me. I know for Richard, he just said it was pretty close. But for me, like, Michael had proved that he was far and away the number 1 team in the league. And that kind of, as I'm not going to spoil anything, but as we get up further in my week 4 ranks, you'll kind of see how the fact that he was so far ahead of the competition, in my opinion, leads to his rank here in week 4.
Alright, so with that said, we'll be moving on to the week 4 ranks. Trev again has the full 12-team roster listed. I only have 11 ranks. This will be the last week that I am voiding that 12th rank, because afterwards Tampa Bay will be taken over by another coach, Carney Hobo, and I'll be able to start actually ranking them again. So we'll start off with Trev's number 12, which happens to be my bottom ranked team as well. So Trev, why don't you talk about that?
So I have Ashley of the Detroit Panthers at number 12. She still hasn't played her week 4 game against Envy and the Dons of the World. However, I mean, honestly, Stab, who was kind of lower in the ranks anyway, Stab had just pulled off an impressive victory against Vic, so he was obviously on his way up. But even Stab beating Ashley pretty easily, in my opinion, just proved that she's just so far down there, and she's already in a hole. It's almost already impossible for her to dig her way back into the playoff race, because 0-3 minus 10, I believe, is really, really hard to come back from. And I'm some of these rankings were a little bit of predictions, a little bit of just they stayed where they were. This one was basically, I'm predicting not only was Ashley going to stay where she is, but I'm predicting her also to lose by a pretty good margin, to be honest. So I think after 4 weeks, I believe she'll be 0-4, minus 13, minus 14 at least, and that's pretty much impossible to dig yourself out of the hole. Although the top 6 do make it, so they're still over halfway through the season, but it's gonna be tough for her.
So yes, like Trev said, we actually did have 2 games this week that were not played, so a couple of these ranks are actually predictions. The 2 games that were not played were San Francisco versus North Carolina, and what we just talked about, Detroit versus the Dons of the World. So I also predicted Ashley not to be the victor of this game, facing Envy, a very skilled competitor and battler. And that's definitely not to say that she couldn't, because I don't want to count any coach out and say that it couldn't happen, but the chances of it happening are much lower in comparison to the other match that hasn't happened, which is the main reason why I actually have Boo of the San Francisco 49 Tails above Ashley's, because I do think that while I am predicting Parker to pull out the win. I do think that Boo has a better chance of winning that match than Ashley has of winning her match, and both teams are still currently at the same 0-3 record without their Week 4 matches being played, so that is why I actually have San Francisco up above Ashley in the power rankings, and I believe Trev also has the same thing with them being a rank higher due to his ranks not being skewed. So, would you like to say anything about San Francisco and how they've been doing before we move on, or just leave it at that?
While Boo did not play his Week 4 game yet against Parker, North Carolina, as previously mentioned, I still predicted him to lose because he's just in, the 6-0 against MB, the 6-0 loss against MB in Week 3, I think kind of crushed his spirits a little bit, and, I don't think he's going to be able to get out of this rut. There's a chance that he could win, yes, just like there was a chance Ashley could beat MB, however, I think it's highly doubtful, and that's why I have Boo of the San Francisco 49 Tails at number 11.
Alright. It's actually pretty cool in our rankings this week. We're starting to see, as the teams get, more and more battles in, we're starting to see kind of where they fall. We're starting to see more eye-to-eye on that. And you'll start to see that our bottom 3 ranks 12 through 10, are actually the same teams. So we'll start off going over my number 9, which would be my number 10, and Trev's actual number 10, the Virginia Tech Frokies, coached by Cutness. Trev, do you really have anything to add? I don't really have much to say about that match. He did lose to a pretty high-ranked team, 4-0. It was quite a bad loss, and I had to move him down a bit. So
I will say that he was kind of rushed because he didn't want to have to postpone the game. He was actually getting ready to forfeit the game because he didn't want to have to postpone it, but he threw the team together in 20 minutes. So I won't dock him too bad. That's why he's not below Boo or Ashley. I mean, those teams don't have wins, but he's also got a worse differential than both of them, and he still has a win. So
right, yeah.
But I'm not going to dock him too badly because he did have to rush. But he's still pretty low at my number 10 spot.
Yes. Unfortunate that hopefully he'll find more time to start working on his team building and he can start actually performing better in his matches and climbing up the ranks, because I would like to see Virginia Tech start to have some success this season, but maybe it'll take until next season, who knows. Going into your number 9, the North Carolina Tirana Tar Heels, coached by Parker. You still have him rather low as compared to where I have him, so we'll go with your justifications right now, and then we'll get to mine when we get up to where he is on my rankings.
Alright, so the reason I still have him this low is because so far, while I do predict him to beat Boo, that's, again, a prediction and not what actually happens. So I'm keeping him around the same place I had him last week, which there was no videos go up, but just saying that I had him at number 8 out of 10 teams last week. So his only proven win is against Ashley. If he beats Boo, then he would have even if he beats Boo, he would have beaten only the bottom 2 teams in my power rankings and your power rankings too. However, he probably should have beat Palm. If it wasn't for some hacks against him, he probably would have beat Palm. So that's why obviously he's still not too terribly low, because he's proven that he can go up against some of the Titans in this minor leagues. But I still need to see a little bit more proof before I can move him up farther.
Alright, that's a fair assessment, I think. For my rank number 8, and this would actually be a rank lower, but it is your actual rank number 8 on your rankings, we both have the Chelseadra, coached by Vic. So Vic is coming off of, I believe, his second loss in a row, if that is correct. And he lost against the Chicago Sacred Fire, who I had pretty low. I know that you had a bit more faith in Stab, but I still had him pretty low. Even after he beat Ashley, you'll see that he only moved up from rank number 11, which would be the bottom in my rankings, up to rank number 9. So that's only a 2-rank jump. And that was mainly because he also jumped up above Boo, who was another winless team that week. So Stab actually did impress me. I moved him up above Vic this week, as you can probably see on the screen graphic right now. But Yeah, Vic's been having a rough past couple of weeks. I'm not going to go too much into week 3, but I think that might have shook him up a little bit. I mean, what did you see in this match that made you put Vic this low this week, and how do you think he's kind of dealing with everything at this point?
Yeah. Well, going back to his week 3, like, he played fine, but he didn't really prep that well. No kick and drain on Venus will really hurt in that week 3 game, because that lost him the game. If he had kick and drain, he would have won that game. So he actually moved down to rank 5 for week 3, as you'll see in the description below. And now he's number 8 because he lost to Stab, who was, even after, like you, I still had more faith in Stab than you did, but I still had him somewhat low, bottom 3rd, I believe. Well, I didn't have him in my week 3 power rankings because he didn't play his week 3 game, but I probably...
Well, he did.
You know, well, yeah, he didn't play until afterwards.
Right.
So.
I added him
yeah,
afterwards, so...
Oh, I didn't. Well, rip. Okay, so getting back on my point, you know, he didn't play horribly. I don't know what his obsession is with fake out Weavile, especially a Weavile that has not only no knockoff, but no dark stab at all. When your opponent has an Arcanine, which, you know, like, takes nothing from Icicle Crash, and he brought Poison Jab, takes nothing from that. And then, like, he just played his... I guess he wasn't expecting the Rocky Helmet Arcanine, but, like, I think he has to expect that when you have Victini and Weavile. I think Rocky Helmet Arcanine is to be expected. Another thing I saw is, for the second week in a row, he got greedy with Fortress, tried to set up, and Stab predicted that beautifully and went for a Flare Blitz, and as he set up another Calm Mind and he could add to another Flare Blitz, I believe that's the second week in a row he's done that with Fortress. So right now he's just not playing too terribly well. He's not playing horribly, and he's not anywhere close to out of the playoff race. In fact, he might actually still be right in the thick of it, because he's 2-2, and he's only at -1 differential because of his +5 differential from the first 2 weeks, saving him from his -6 differential from the last 2 weeks. But Stab pretty much outplayed him, pretty much outprepped him, and, like, I've got nothing more to say.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Yeah. I'm definitely going to agree with what you said there. Stab definitely did impress me enough for me to move him up above Vic this week. Only 1 rank above. I didn't move him up too much, so it was only actually another 2 rank jump that he moved. And I have him now at rank number 7. Again, it would probably be skewed down to rank number 8 if I were including Tampa Bay at this point, which I'm not. You have Stab a little bit higher, up at rank 6. So, I mean, do you want to just get into him? Because we'll be getting into, I think you're rank 7 and my rank 5, Andrew. So, I mean, do you want to just go over Stab right now, and then we'll go over Andrew?
Yeah, I'll go with Stab right now. So, Stab is my number 6. We'll obviously get back to my number 7 Andrew in a bit. But Stab is my number 6 because he's, with just 2 good games in a row, he's right back into the thick. He's actually in, like, I believe he's 5th place in the league now and standing. So he's, like, if the season were to end today, I know there's still 7 more weeks, but if the season were to end today, he'd be comfortably in the playoffs, which I find incredible. Just because, you know, his first 2 weeks, yes, he lost those first 2 weeks, but he didn't lose horribly, and that's what kept him in. That's why I kept him not at the very bottom 3 or 2 teams in the league, because I knew if he just got 1 or 2 wins in a row, he would not only be back at around 500 or 500, he would be at a pretty good differential, and he does. He actually has one of the higher differentials in the league. He actually has a higher differential than Michael, who's a 3-1 team, I believe, because he's at +6. I think he has the same differential, or maybe almost the same as Salem, who's another 3-1 team, and up there in my power ranking. So, like, he's just right back into the thick of things. I've been impressed with his team building. In fact, I will admit that I helped him team build the first 2 weeks, but these last 2 weeks, I haven't really helped him at all. I've gave him like 1 or 2 pointers for each team, and that's it. I haven't helped him build. So he, not only is he battling better, but he's prepping better, and he's developing all by himself. So I'm just blown away by the transformation in these last 2 weeks. So I'm really happy for Stab. I don't want to call this a biased rank, because I think he deserves to be top half after his performance the last 2 weeks. But Stab Buddy, your number 6?
So basically what you're saying is that Stab lost his first 2 weeks because you're a terrible player at this league format.
I mean, he should have beat Andrew. There was hacks. Week 1, he literally lost to a tie. So, like, he basically, he could have easily won those first 2 games. We could be talking about Stab as a 4-0 team. He could be the best team in the league, best differential as well. He could be better than Palm right now if the one turn in each of those games have gone differently. He could be 4-0 right now.
Just remember your justification for that when we get to my rank of Michael when we get to that point. So just to go over Stab quickly, I mean, yes, he has gotten himself back into the thick of things, and yes, he did pull off a very impressive victory over Vic, who is one of the top threat teams. Unfortunately, one of his wins came against Ashley, who is one of the bottom teams in both of our rankings and has been for, a few weeks running now, so I couldn't really boost him up too high because of that. He did only really have one, I would say, because a win is a win, but a respectable victory over a top threat team. He only had one of those, and while his losses were very close, I just felt it wasn't quite enough for me to put him into the top half, but that is the beauty of opinions. We'll move on to Trev's number 7 now, the Miami Heat train, coached by Andrew, and I actually have them up at rank number 5 still. Trev, would you like to talk about why Andrew is at the rank that he is in yours?
Now, I'm just going to start off by saying this could be a little bit unfair because Andrew has run into the buzzsaw of Palm and Michael in back-to-back weeks. But the fact is that he actually had, I mean, I know I ranked Boo number 4 in the preseason, but right now he's number 11. Right now, Andrew's only 2 wins are against both of our bottom 2 teams. And he won 1-0. No, wait, he didn't. I'm sorry. He didn't beat Ashley. I'm sorry. He beat Stab. I think he should have probably lost that if not for an Ironhead max roll, absolute max roll. So while I'm wrong in the fact that he did not only beat the bottom 2 teams, he beat one of the bottom teams and then a mid to high team. His differential is suffering because he barely beat those teams. If he needed to beat Stab and Boo at least 3-4-0 each, and he only beat them 1-0. And from what Andrew tells me, he's kind of like, he doesn't go for high differential, he just goes for the win, and that's a problem when you don't win as many games as like Kyle did. Like Kyle, for the original commissioner of the National Pokeball League for season 1 and 2, he wasn't a big differential guy, but he won 22 out of his 27 games he played. But Andrew has only won half of his games, and because he doesn't go for big differential, and because he got kind of trashed in both games, he didn't get really trashed versus Michael, but he got really, really lucky, like 3 separate freezes. But if he loses one more week, he's going to be really, not really bad off for the playoffs, because again, there would still be 6 weeks after that. If he keeps on only winning 1 or 2-0 and then losing 3 or 4-0 or more, then he's going to be in trouble, because no matter if he finishes with a 6-5 record, the 6-5 record might be good enough to tie you for that last playoff spot. But if you have a negative differential, you're probably going to lose to that tie. So that's why I have him so low.
All right, I do have Andrew a bit higher, up at rank 5, still in the top half, mainly because for one thing, he would be right on the cusp of being skewed downward. If I were to incorporate Tampa Bay, I would probably put them at either rank 5 or 6, maybe even 4 for this week, depending on how things panned out. But as it is, the North Carolina Tyrannus Tar Heels, who I have at rank 6, again, didn't play their game, so this is more of a prediction rank. It was a 1 rank jump from rank 7 in my week 3 ranks, which you will see in the description, up to rank 6 this week, assuming that he may have pulled out a win. And again, the main reason for that and for me not keeping him at rank 7 is because I felt that I couldn't move Stab up too much because of one of his wins being against Ashley and the fact that he is 2-2, as well as the fact that Vic kind of had a bit of a fall from grace in weeks 3 and 4, so I had to move him down as well. That kind of pushed Parker up a rank, honestly, but again, I do have faith in Parker. I do think that he could definitely beat Boo and would earn that rank. We'll have to see when the match actually gets played. Parker, by the way, I hope you feel better. The reason that he hasn't played his match is because he hasn't been feeling very well. So I do hope you get better, Parker. And play your match when you can, just, get better. Talking about Andrew now at my rank 5, he did lose 2 in a row, but like you said, it was the buzzsaw of Michael and Palm, and both of those are very top-notch competitors. Andrew, I still have a lot of faith in Andrew. I still think that he can pull it back in the forthcoming weeks. He did have a bit of a rough, second half of the first 4 weeks, but I can't really punish him too much just based on who he played, and again, the fact that the ranks are skewed a little bit may mean that he is at a place where he maybe shouldn't be, maybe he should be a little bit lower, who knows, but I'm not going to be as harsh on Andrew until he starts, until it really starts to show that he can't handle the pressure of the league format, but I think he can. I think he'll bounce back, so that's why I have Andrew at number 5. We can talk about your number 5 now, the Tampa Bay Lux Rays, again, probably where I would have them around if I were actually going to include them in the rankings, so why don't you get into that?
So, for my number 5, I do have Mono, well, formerly Mono, and the former Tampa Bay Lux Rays. Who knows if they're going to stay the Lux Rays or not. But Mono really did leave with a bang. He not only won his last 2 games, one of them did come against Cutness, which kind of didn't help him too terribly much, but, he still won by a good margin. And that was enough to move him up a little bit in my week 3 power rankings. And then he really left with a bang when he beat Michael in an incredibly close match. I don't think any of us saw this ever happen. He did pull off the upset, and even though he is leaving, and Carney, who, if you keep up with the NPL channel, does both, well, it's supposed to only do 1 game of the week, but he does both because one of our other analysts right now is kind of, I don't know, somewhere.
MIA.
Yeah, that's a word. Hey, Miami, MIA. Abbreviations, okay. Sorry about that. I just had to get that in. But,
well, actually, Missing in Action is an acronym.
All right.
MIA for Miami is an abbreviation, if you want to get technical.
But you still say them the same way, though.
I know.
MIA.
Yes.
All right.
Very
Can
good.
I continue with my rankings, Richard?
Yes, go
Thank
for
you.
it.
Thank you. Okay. So, as I was saying, Mono left with a bang. He beat Green Bay, number 1 team in my week 3 power rankings, and my number 1 team since week 2. And even though Hobo has taken over, I'm still going to give the team the benefit of the doubt because I'm starting to like the team a little bit better. I still think there's a little something off, but Hobo does have unlimited free agency things for his first week, so he can decide if he wants to make the team better, worse, or keep it the same. I would hope he would not make it worse, but you never know. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because I've also battled him a few times. He's a pretty good battler, so I'm going to retain the rank that Mono would have had if Mono had stuck around after week 4. So yeah, that's my number 5 rank, the Tampa Bay Lux Rays, and the newly acquired Carney Hobo.
All right. So when Carney actually does take over in week 5 and does his battle, I will explain then in those power rankings how I go about ranking him. For now, we're just going to move on to my number 4 rank, the Green Bay Palkias. Now, Michael, the coach of the Green Bay Palkias, was, like I was talking about earlier, he did achieve rank 1 in my week 3 power rankings by, having a very good performance thus far and playing against, pretty quality teams and proving why he should be at that rank. I dropped him down so low for a couple reasons, and I say solo, but it's only a 3 rank drop. But when you get to the top ranks, any kind of rank move is significant because you're talking about the top players now. And now, while Trev in his week 3 had Green Bay way above the competition, he said it was a bit of a gap between his ranks 1 and his rank 2 teams. And he might have said that for week 2, but I'm sure that the same thought process was behind the week 3 ranks as well. So I didn't have as big of a gap. Michael and Palm and honestly the rest of the top 4 were very close to me. And so, Michael's loss against Mono. Now, I haven't talked to Michael about this, but from just the results of the game, what I can see here, the 2-0 loss, obviously a very close game, a very good game, but I'm willing to bet that due to the fact that Mono was on his way out, Michael may have gotten a little bit lax in his prep and his planning and his execution of the game. Again, I don't know if that's the case. Mono is a very good player in his own right, but I do feel like the fact that he was leaving, this was going to be his last week, might have slightly influenced Michael not to put as much preparation into his team as he should have. And that's one thing that, if it is true, I would have an issue with. The other thing is that while Mono is a very good player, he was on his way out the door, and Michael lost to a team that was on his way out the door. Again, like I said, I'm not taking anything away from Mono. I've been saying since the beginning of these rankings, Mono is a fantastic player, and I really wish that we could see him stay with the league and show us what he can do, and I think it would be great to watch him. Unfortunately, due to his personal decision, that's not going to be the case, but yes, he is still a great battler, but yes, he was also on his way out, and that is the team that Michael lost to. In terms of why I have him dropped below Kansas City and Dons of the World, for one thing, MV, yes, while that is a bit of a prediction rank because he did not beat Ashley, he just is predicted to beat Ashley, and he could lose, but again, chances of that I don't think are very high. And, I mean, yes, while he would be predicted to beat the lowest ranked team currently, it would still be a win if he does win. And he's still proven that he is a very high caliber player, and again, if it is a win, he wouldn't have lost in week 3 or week 4, so I don't know if that's making sense. Like, if he does win, it would be a win versus Michael's loss in week 4. As for Kansas City, that feeling is even stronger because Kansas City did actually play their week 4 game and win, and yes, while it was against another team that is kind of struggling at the moment in the Virginia Tech Frokies, he still is on a 3-game win streak. So he lost the first week, and that was it. You know, Trev's faith in Salem was kind of shaky after that week, but I mean, Salem's really pulled his way back up. I also dropped him down after that first week, but I was very glad to see him start winning in subsequent weeks and pull himself back up, so that's awesome to see. That is why I basically have Kansas City at rank number 2 this week, and also his first week loss was against Michael, who, as we've seen, is a very top-notch competitor himself. So, and I mean, if you want to talk about Dons of the World some more, they also did play Green Bay. Dons of the World versus Green Bay was a 0-0 double down, very close match, and had that match gone any slightly differently, MV might have actually pulled out ahead of that match and beat Michael, which would have put him at 4-0 and Michael at 2-2. So that's another reason why, even though MV did not actually play his week 4 match yet, he would be above Michael if he did win because of the fact that his loss to Michael was very close. So that's kind of complicated of why I have Michael at the rank that he is. He did play a very good match against Mono. I'm not taking anything away from the match of Michael's match, or, you know, Salem's match, or the match that will eventually happen between MV and Ashley, but in terms of just purely like standpoint things and rankings and, you know, wins, losses, and records and all that, that is why I have dropped Michael down to rank 4, and I've also kind of covered my ranks 2 and 3 pretty thoroughly, why I have them at the position that I do. So, Trev, if you want to just go crazy on your ranks 4 through 2, feel free.
Alright, well, before I do that, I would just like to kind of refute something that Richard just said. After Salem lost to Michael in week 1, that did not shake my confidence in Salem. In fact, my confidence was already low in Salem. So that's why the loss actually boosted my confidence with him, because you can't really lose confidence when it's already at almost 0. It actually started to boost my confidence in him to its current level, which is pretty high, and I think he's a series contender, but we have to watch this whole season to see what comes out. But as for my ranks, number 4 I have MV, Dons of the World. Even though I predict them to win I'm not going to move them down or up, or I'm just going to keep. This was mainly not because of the predictions of them to win. I was literally just keeping him here no matter what. Even if I predicted him to win like 6-0, or even if I predicted him to lose, I was going to keep him there because I didn't know what to think about the match. Plus, I predicted him to win, so that's why I'm going to keep him there. He's obviously he probably is the best player in the league because he's friends with like all the good players and he has help, and he also is really good himself. Not taking anything away from him, he's also really, really good himself, and he's proved that by absolutely dominating him in his wins and losing by fractions in his losses, in his one loss. But Envy has really proven that even though his team is basically kind of matchup based, I still don't have the greatest faith in his team, but I know he's a great battler, and I know now that he's kind of proved. I know it's only 3 games, going on 4, but I think he's already proven himself that he can be pretty good in the format, if not great, if not excellent, if not amazing. So, as I was saying for my Week 3 rankings in the beginning of the video, how I had the gap between Michael and the rest of the league, this comes into play because I actually have Kansas City ranked number 3, even though Michael lost and Kansas City has won 3 in a row. The fact is that I'm not saying like the matchup matter, but Michael did beat Salem, so that's one boost in his direction already. The fact is that Michael had so much distance between him and my second place team in my Week 3 power rankings, just in my opinion, allowed him a pretty big cushion. It wasn't big enough cushion to keep him number 1, but it was still a pretty big cushion. And as you can see, my number 2 team is Michael and the Green Bay Falcons, as I just said. He didn't play horribly at all. He played pretty well, but Mono played better. And I think Mono might have had a bit of team matchup, because honestly, with that team, I don't see how Michael could lose to, not saying that Mono's team was any less threatening, it wasn't. You look at the teams and you can see some pretty big differences because Michael just has all these defensive top threats. He has all these offensive top threats, and Mono kind of just has second-rate Pokemon, which is not bad because, second-rate Pokemon, a team of second-rate Pokemon can still win the league. But like just looking at the actual like team matchup, it looks like Michael should have won, but also kind of like in terms of the Pokemon versus the Pokemon, Mono had matchup in terms of his second-rate Pokemon kind of matched up well against Michael's first-rate Pokemon. That's basically what I've been trying to say, and I know I screwed that up totally, but I got what I wanted to get out. So I do have Michael at number 2. I didn't really talk about Salem at number 3. Salem, he did do well against Cutness, but Cutness was also a race for time, and he didn't terribly impress me. He impressed me enough to keep him at number 3, but he has won 3 games in a row, so he's on his way to being a serious contender, and he's already at, I believe, 3rd place in the league, technically 2nd because MB has not played his Week 4 game yet, but assuming MB wins, he'll be number 3 in the standings in the entire league. But yeah, those are my ranks 4 through 2.
Alright, so I think we can, well, hold on. First of all, I would just like to point out that Mono has a Sylveon on his team, and Trev called his team second rate. So, Trev thinks that Sylveon is second rate. You've heard it here.
I mean, technically he had Clefable, which I actually consider Sylveon a bit better, but some people consider Clefable better than Sylveon. I'm just saying.
Okay. The point is that there's 2 top-tier fairies that were on his team.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, your confidence boosted in Salem after he lost to Michael. What?
Because he proved himself. I thought his team was horrible besides the first 5 Pokemon. But like he played, I said it in Week 1 Power Rankings. I said that, I said in preseason he had the highest potential, and then I said in Week 1 Power Rankings that he impressed me like a lot more than I thought he would. So that boosted because he he had Michael on the ropes. Michael, who's basically been the number one team all this time. I had Vic ranked number one in the preseasons, but looking back at it, Michael really should have been number one this whole time. And like, to basically have the number one team on the ropes, it's basically like when Embiid almost beat Michael. Not quite that to that same extent, because it was still a 3-0 game. It was not 0-0, and Salem did get pretty much outplayed the second half of the battle. But it made me confident that Salem could match up against these scary looking teams and go toe to toe with them. And also it proved that Salem was, I did like some of his sets. They were pretty innovative. And even though the sub Salic tail glow Manaphy did not work out that way because Power Herb Typhlosion kind of destroyed his team, it was still a good idea because that could actually tear through Michael's team. So that's why my confidence actually was boosted in him. I mean, pretty much if a team loses and they go up in the power rankings like he did in week 1 power rankings, that basically means my confidence in them is higher.
Okay.
So that you can translate. That's how I view power rankings. If you're at the bottom, I am very not confident in you. If you're at the top, I'm very confident at you. If you move up, I'm getting more confident. If you move down, I'm getting less confident. That's how I feel with my power rankings.
Well, now we know that Trev is biased, and we know why his rankings are so weird. But anyways, one rank that we can both agree on this week is our top rank, the Brisbane Breloons, who've actually been at the top of my rankings for, I believe, this is the 3rd week now, not in a row because of Michael somewhat usurping the throne very closely in week 3, but now Palm is back at rank number 1, and he's actually at your rank number 1 for the first time this season. So why don't we talk a little bit about that? Why don't you start off with it?
All right. Well, before I start off, I would just like to say that I think Palm has gotten kind of lucky this season. I feel like he should have lost to Parker, which I already stated previously. And honestly, I think he had a chance of losing to Andrew. Although, other than that, Andrew, that was an ugly game in Palm's favor. Although, if there was a bit of hacks where Andrew did miss a high jump kick, and that would have killed the Whimsicott. And his last Pokemon was Omastar, which even though he had a HP grab and there was a possibility that Omastar could have cleaned up the game with the Shell Smash, but unfortunately, since the Metachamp missed the high jump kick on the Whimsicott, that allowed, basically, Omastar could not set up a Shell Smash, or it would be Encored, and if it killed the Whimsicott, then it had no chance either, because it would have gotten its sash broken, it was White Herb, but it would have gotten some damage on it. So that was kind of unfortunate and kind of fortunate for Palm. But still, Palm, even though I feel like he's been quite the luckster this season, I'm still very confident in his team. It's a very cool team. I believe he dropped Sawsbuck, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I can't remember what he dropped it for because I'm not looking at the doc right now. But I know it was something better than Sawsbuck. So his team got better. I still don't think he's using it to quite the full potential. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's prepared well, he's played well, but I think he could still be using it better because obviously, in my opinion, he could have lost these last 2 games, but he got hacks. I think if he was using his team fully to full potential, I think he would not have even needed hacks to win those games. Again, those are my opinions. Maybe he would have won easily without the hacks, but in my opinion, that hacks really helped him, at least in the Parker game. Andrew game, that's debatable. I can see it being debatable. The North Carolina game, I think, without like a hurricane miss, there was a crit, I believe. There was a crit through a screen, in fact, that killed the Clefable. But enough trash talking, Palm. I'm sorry, Palm. I had to trash talk you a little bit. Still, I have to trash talk you in every power ranking just to see your reaction. But you know what? You finally did it, buddy. Michael was dethroned, and you are my number 1 team. So enjoy it while it lasts. It hopefully won't last very long, so I can not put you on number 1 anymore.
You're so rude, Trev. Look at this guy. He puts a guy at number 1 and then trash talks him. What a guy. What a guy. Alright. So actually, in your comment, he did drop Sawsbuck, which I was really kind of sad about because I do like Sawsbuck. I don't care what you say. I like Sawsbuck. And he did manage to get a kill with it, but he dropped it for, I believe, Kabutops, and then he dropped Suicune for Keldeo, which I found to be slightly odd, but I mean, I'm sure he has his reasons.
I think he has enough defense.
He was in need of a fighting
Sorry
type.
for interrupting.
It's okay.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just saying. I think he had enough defense on his team that like Keldeo fits better on his team than Suicune. Suicune kind of probably was never going to come that much.
I mean, looking at his roster, it's Nidoking, Tyrantrum, Mew, which I guess can be defensive, Entei, which can somewhat, Mega Scizor, somewhat, Galvantula, Keldeo, Frostlass, Liepard, Kabutops, Whimsicott. So, I mean, I think he could have used Suicune, but I think that he did need a fighting type very desperately. Like, I'm looking through his team, and the only real things with fighting moves, I think Nidoking gets Superpower, Sawsbuck got High Jump Kick, there are other things which get a random assortment of fighting moves, so he did need a fighting type Stab Mon on his team, so I could see why he would switch out Suicune for Keldeo, but we're not here to talk about his team and his roster, we're here to talk about how great the man is, because he won, he's the only team that is currently 4-0, and while yes, there are other teams that could possibly be 4-0, Palm is the only team that is undefeated. So Palm and
lucky man.
Palm and his Brisbane Bralums. I love Palm. He's awesome.
Actually, he told me it's actually. I think he said it's pronounced Brisbane.
Brisbane.
Yeah. Hey Richard, guess what? You're not real English.
Hey, guess what? It's an Australian town. I'm pretty sure. So ooh.
Shut up.
Oh.
Shut up. You still can't pronounce anything right.
Oh, okay. Well, here, I'm gonna type a word in Skype to you, right?
Are you actually gonna do this right
Yeah,
now?
we're gonna do this right. We're gonna do this.
Are we gonna keep this in here?
We're gonna do this. I'm gonna type this word to you. Right. You people on the watching the power rankings will see this word come up on the screen right now as Trev sees it. I want you to try to pronounce that word.
Leicester.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Leicester.
Nope.
Lie. Is it okay? Is it lie?
No, it's not.
It's Lee.
No.
Lay?
It's Leicester.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So.
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong.
So
maybe you are.
If you want to make fun of me for not knowing the name of an Australian town, which I don't know, maybe it's the name of a British town somewhere, but he got it from an Australian town, and this is an actual British town. It's actually also a town in New York, quite close by, but anyways, yes, that is how it's pronounced, Leicester. So anyways, off of that diversion, so yeah, I don't know, Palm is undefeated, he's put on a strong show, and yes, he did have a little bit of hacks in his favor. I really can't dock him too much for that. I know you're just joking anyways, for the most part, so, I mean, yes, hacks, it happens in games, and yes, it can swing things in one favor or another, but, I mean, Palm has just played so greatly in, the rest of his games, and just from what I know of him and his skill as a battler, has really impressed me so far, so he is back at number 1, he's at your number 1 for the first time, and great job, Palm.
Hopefully the only time.
Okay. Great job, Palm. Great job to the other coaches so far, to the ones who are kind of at the bottom and struggling. Hopefully you guys can, maybe start to even things out. To the ones who are currently at the top, great job and keep up the good work. I think that's going to conclude our power rankings, though. Trev, would you like to add anything to that?
Palm, please lose week 5. Okay, thanks, bye.
I mean, his week 5 is against Boo, so good luck with that.
Easiest wins of Boo life. Okay, easiest win. Okay, okay. If Boo doesn't beat Parker, I'm calling it right now. Boo is winning week 5. Boo is determined if he does not win against Parker, and even if he does win against Parker, well then he got his first win, and now he's even more determined than he would have been if he would have been 0-4. Boom. There we go, Palm. Palm, if you lose to Boo, I'm dropping you all the way to number 5.
Oh God. All right. I think that'll conclude our session here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm not gonna let you get in the last
one. Love you, Palm. I'm gonna love you, Palm.
Okay.
I'm just joking. I always love you.
All right. And with that, we are done. See you guys later.
That was. Oh. Shit. I
That's not getting cut. It's not getting cut. That's not getting cut.